ever tried putting together one of those huge jigsaw puzzles?
Mm-hmm.
But like all the pieces are scattered in different rooms
Yeah.
and nobody's talking.
Yeah.
Talk about frustrating,
I
right?
can only imagine.
That's kind of what it feels like when you've got bad cross-team communication in a company.
Right.
So we're diving deep into a guide today.
Okay.
It's called Effective Cross-Team Communication, Breaking Down Barriers.
Hmm.
And we're going to figure out what the best strategies are.
Cool.
You know what's really interesting?
What's that?
This guide actually features a story about a company merger.
Oh, wow.
And they say consistent terminology like save the day.
Really?
Yeah, we're going to unpack that whole story a little bit later.
Okay.
But first, let's kind of go a little bit beyond just casual chats and like friendly hellos in the hallway.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be deeper than that, right?
Right.
It's about understanding how your team's work impacts everything else.
Ripple effect.
Exactly. Like imagine you're a developer and you're making what seems like a really small change to the back end.
Innocent enough, right?
Well, not always.
Oh.
What if that tiny change messes up everything the front-end team is working on?
Oh.
Suddenly you've got integration issues,
Yeah.
missed deadlines,
Mm.
and maybe even some really unhappy customers.
Yikes.
Our guide really stresses how important being proactive with communication is.
So it's not just about putting out fires when they happen.
Exactly. It's about preventing them.
Love that. Okay, that makes total sense.
Good.
But how do we actually cultivate that proactive mindset?
Yeah. That's the question, isn't it?
Have you ever felt like you were stuck in a silo?
Oh, yeah.
Just completely focused on your own tasks?
For sure.
No idea how everything fits together.
All the time.
The guide talks a lot about this shared responsibility mindset,
Right.
where teams see themselves as part of a bigger system.
It's like working on a puzzle, but you can actually see the whole picture
I like that.
instead of just your individual pieces.
Makes
One simple way to break down those silos is just regular emails or quick meetings between teams,
Yeah.
especially when things are really busy.
Those little check-ins can really prevent a lot of headaches later on.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate good documentation.
Oh, yeah, good point.
It's like a roadmap for the whole project.
Keeps everyone on the same page.
Exactly.
Love that analogy. So we've got the proactive mindset.
Right.
We're breaking down silos.
Yeah.
But what about when those unexpected obstacles pop up?
Oh, there are always obstacles.
Always.
Sometimes it's like teams in the same company are speaking completely different languages.
Wait, you mean like actual different languages?
Well, not literally.
Oh, okay.
But think about all the jargon,
Yeah.
acronyms,
Yeah.
even internal slang.
Right.
It creates so much confusion.
You think you're on the same page,
Yeah.
but you're using different words for the exact same thing.
It happens all the time.
Oh, I've been there.
You end up talking in circles.
The worst.
There's this story in the guide about a company merger. And this is exactly what almost destroyed the whole thing.
No way.
Yeah. Conflicting terminology created massive roadblocks
Wow.
until they realized they needed a shared language.
So how did they fix it?
Did they create a company dictionary or something?
Right, like a giant glossary.
It was more collaborative than that.
Okay.
They created glossaries,
Okay.
standardized how they named things.
Right.
But the most important thing is they involved everyone.
Oh, so all the teams got to contribute.
Exactly. They all had input in creating this new shared language.
So it's not about forcing a language on people.
No.
It's about making sure everyone understands and feels comfortable.
That's the key.
And that shared language becomes even more important when you're working with teams outside your company,
Oh, absolutely.
like third-party vendors and stuff.
Right, because that adds a whole other layer of complexity.
So what happens when you're working with teams outside your company walls?
The guide suggests having one person who's the point of contact. They manage all the communication with that external team.
So they're like the central hub.
Exactly. Avoids duplicate efforts and keeps the messaging consistent.
Keeps everyone in a loop.
Right. And it's also crucial to align expectations early on.
Oh, yeah, before you even start the work.
Be proactive. Lay everything out. Address potential conflicts.
To get ahead of it.
Exactly. Because once things are in motion, it's much harder to change course.
That's a really good point.
The goal is to make that external team feel like a natural extension of your internal processes.
Seamless integration?
Exactly. But of course, things don't always go according to plan,
Right. There are always going to be hiccups.
especially when you're dealing with multiple teams and things start to feel a little chaotic.
Oh, yeah, like when everything's happening at once.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are a few common challenges that tend to pop up.
Like what?
Information silos,
Okay.
dependencies between teams,
Yeah.
and of course conflicts.
Right, because teams can get so focused on their own tasks
Exactly.
that they lose sight of what other teams are doing.
And that leads to all sorts of problems down the line.
Miscommunication, missed deadlines, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there are the dependencies.
Oh, yeah. One team can't move forward until another team finishes their part?
That's where things can get really tricky.
For sure.
If those dependencies aren't managed carefully,
Yeah.
you end up with bottlenecks and delays.
Right. And then, of course, there are always conflicts.
Oh yeah, different priorities,
Different working styles.
personalities clashing.
It's inevitable.
It is. But the guide offers some solutions for tackling these challenges.
Okay, give me the good stuff. How do we bring order to this chaos?
First, break down those silos.
Okay.
Encourage cross-functional meetings.
Makes sense.
Use tools like Slack or project management platform.
Great tools that give everyone visibility into what's happening.
Transparency is key.
Love transparency. What about those tricky dependencies?
Visual aids like Gantt charts are super helpful.
Okay, I love a good visual.
They map out how all the tasks are connected.
Makes it easier to see the big picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you can identify potential bottlenecks before they happen.
Proactive problem solving.
Now, when conflicts arise, and they will,
Oh, they definitely will.
it's important to address them head on.
So we're not avoiding conflict.
No, we're just finding healthy ways to work through it.
Right, creating a culture where people feel comfortable speaking up,
Exactly, a culture of open feedback
where people can voice their concerns and question decisions.
without fear of being blamed.
It's all about respect.
And the most important thing for all of this,
What's that?
strong leadership.
Makes all the difference, doesn't it?
It really does. But what does strong leadership look like in this context?
Yeah, what are we talking about here?
Well, you need experienced leaders within each team,
Okay.
people who can balance their own priorities with the needs of the whole project,
Right, they need to see both sides.
like a conductor,
Okay,
orchestrating all these different instruments.
to create a beautiful symphony.
Exactly. It's all about teamwork and coordination.
I love that analogy.
And these leaders need to be really clear about who's responsible for what,
Right, so everyone knows their role.
and who has the final say when there are disagreements.
Otherwise, it's like everyone's trying to steer the ship at the same time.
Exactly. It's about setting clear expectations,
Right.
managing dependencies proactively,
Mm.
and keeping everyone aligned with the company's goals.
A recipe for success.
I'd say so.
Great communication really is the foundation for great collaboration.
Couldn't agree more.
And that collaboration leads to amazing outcomes.
Happier teams, successful projects, a more productive organization overall.
I'm feeling inspired. Before we move on,
Okay.
anything else from the guide that you think is super important for our listeners to understand?
Oh, absolutely. There's one detail that often gets overlooked.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's about having a single person who makes the final decision.
When teams can't agree.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
prevents those endless debates.
Right.
And makes sure the project keeps moving forward.
It's like having a referee who can make the tough calls.
Yeah. And keep everyone focused on the bigger picture.
So clarity, decisiveness, and open communication.
Those are the keys to successful cross-team collaboration.
It all comes back to communication, doesn't it?
It always does.
Those are the core principles that drive great teamwork.
And help companies achieve incredible results.
Okay, so we've been talking about all these awesome strategies for effective cross-team communication,
Right.
like building that shared responsibility,
Right.
creating a common language.
Uh-huh.
But let's be real.
Okay.
Even with the best laid plans,
Right.
things don't always go smoothly.
That's life.
So what happens when conflicts come up?
Oh, yeah.
Deadlines are looming and the pressure's on.
Well, that's when those strong leadership skills
Okay.
really become crucial.
So they need to be like expert conflict mediators,
Pretty much.
as well as communication gurus.
Exactly.
That sounds like a tall order.
It is, but remember, conflict isn't always a bad thing
Oh, that's interesting.
when it's handled the right way.
Okay.
It can actually lead to growth and innovation.
Really?
Imagine there's a big disagreement between teams.
Okay.
Instead of shutting down the people who disagree,
Right.
you encourage them to talk openly and respectfully.
Right.
You might be surprised by the creative solutions that come up.
When you have those different perspectives.
Exactly. Diversity of thought is a powerful asset,
Yeah.
but it needs to be managed effectively.
I see your point. So leaders are really important
Absolutely.
in creating that space where people feel safe to share their ideas.
Right. And then guiding the teams towards a solution.
Working together.
Exactly. So what can leaders actually do?
Yeah. What are some practical tips?
When they're in the middle of a cross-team conflict, how do they navigate that?
Right. This choppy waters.
The first thing is active listening.
Okay.
Leaders need to make sure everyone feels heard
Really listen to.
and understood.
Not just brushed aside.
Don't jump in with solutions right away.
Okay.
Take the time to really understand what's causing the conflict.
Get to the root of it.
Sometimes just feeling heard can de-escalate a situation.
Right. It can build trust.
Exactly. It shifts the dynamic.
From like us versus them to
Right.
how can we solve this together?
Exactly. It's about mutual respect and understanding.
I like that. So once everyone's been heard,
Then the leader can help the teams find a solution.
together,
It's not about the leader dictating a solution.
right?
It's about guiding the teams to find it themselves.
So it's less about being the boss
Yeah.
and more about being a facilitator,
I like that.
helping the teams have those tough conversations.
And find common ground.
That takes real skill.
It does. And it often involves compromise.
Oh, yeah. In any.
Any team.
Mm.
Not everyone's going to get exactly what they want.
Right.
Sometimes you have to put the project first.
And let go of your own personal preferences.
It's a tough lesson.
It is, but it's important.
And that's where strong leadership comes in again.
Okay.
Leaders need to explain why those compromises are necessary.
Connecting it back to the big picture.
Exactly. So it's not just because I said so.
Right.
It's about the strategy behind the decision.
Transparency and open communication.
Those are key.
This is making me think about my own role.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not a leader,
Right.
I can still contribute to a better environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone has a role to play.
In shaping the communication culture.
It's about being mindful of how your work affects others,
Yeah.
communicating proactively,
Hmm.
and helping resolve conflicts.
So it's not just about the leaders at the top,
It's about everyone working together.
creating that culture of collaboration,
Exactly. And that takes effort from everyone
being intentional.
about how we communicate, how we listen, how we work together.
Okay, so we've talked about conflict resolution,
Yeah.
leadership, a collaborative culture.
Mm-hmm.
What else should we keep in mind?
When it comes to cross-team communication,
What are some other things that can help us collaborate better?
one thing that's really important
Okay.
is celebrating successes.
Oh, yeah. We can't forget to celebrate.
It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day
Right.
that we forget to acknowledge the wins
When teams work well together,
and achieve great results.
we need to celebrate.
It's a simple thing, but it makes a big difference.
Why is it so important?
It boosts morale,
Okay.
reinforces positive behaviors,
Makes sense.
and reminds everyone why collaboration is so important.
It's like a collective pat on the back,
Exactly.
recognizing the hard work and the positive impact,
It strengthens the bonds between teams.
and paves the way for even better collaboration in the future.
Celebrating success is so powerful.
It creates a positive work environment
Helps teams recognize their achievements.
and encourages them to keep striving for excellence together.
Yeah.
So we've explored a ton of valuable strategies
Yeah,
for effective cross-team communication.
for sure.
From building that shared responsibility mindset
Hmm.
to celebrating those collaborative wins.
It's been a good deep dive.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Right.
But are there any advanced techniques we can use to really level up our collaboration?
Ooh, I like that.
What does the guide have to say about that?
There are definitely some more nuanced strategies.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Let's talk about feedback mechanisms.
Okay.
We touched on open feedback a bit.
Yeah, and addressing conflict directly.
Right, but what if we had a more structured approach?
Okay, so what would that look like?
What if you established regular retrospectives?
Retrospectives.
Yeah, where teams come together
Okay.
to discuss what went well,
Okay.
what could be improved,
I like that.
and what lessons they learned.
So it's a dedicated time for reflection.
Exactly, and continuous improvement.
So it's not just about reacting to problems.
No, it's about being proactive.
Finding ways to get better.
That's the key.
But shouldn't retrospectives happen within individual teams?
You're right. They definitely should.
So how does that work in a cross-team context?
Take it a step further.
Okay.
Have cross-team retrospectives.
Interesting.
Bring people from different teams together.
To share their perspectives.
That way you can identify those bigger issues.
That might be affecting multiple teams.
Exactly.
It's like a giant collaborative problem-solving session.
I love it.
And remember, feedback goes both ways.
Oh, yeah. It's not just about receiving feedback.
It's also about giving it.
If you see another team doing something awesome,
Yeah.
tell them.
Just acknowledge it.
It goes a long way.
Building trust, fostering collaboration,
It's about recognizing those wins, big and small.
and reinforcing those positive behaviors
You got positive reinforcement is just as important.
as constructive criticism.
It builds morale moving, strengthens relationships.
And keeps people motivated.
For sure.
So we've got these structured feedback loops
Right.
happening within and across teams.
Uh-huh.
What else can we use to really up our communication game?
Let's talk about technology.
Oh, yeah. Can't forget about the
The
tools.
right tools can make a huge difference.
We've mentioned project management platforms and communication tools like Slack.
Right.
What else is out there?
There's a whole world of software for collaboration.
Give me some examples.
Think about visual collaboration tools,
Okay.
where teams can brainstorm and work together in real time.
Oh, that's cool no matter where they are.
Yeah, platforms like Miro are great for that,
Okay, cool.
or knowledge management platforms, where you can easily share information and best practices
So everyone's on the same page.
and has access to the latest insights.
That makes sense. So it's not just about having the tools.
Yeah,
It's about using the right tools in the right way.
exactly. Leveraging technology to break down those barriers.
At hinder collaboration.
You got it.
It's like having this ever-expanding toolbox
Yeah,
of communication gadgets.
the possibilities are endless.
But with all these advancements come new challenges, right?
For sure.
What are some of the more complex hurdles?
When it comes to cross-team communication,
Okay, let's hear it.
how about managing communication across different time zones and cultures?
Oh, yeah, the global workplace.
As companies become more global,
We're working with teams all over the world.
it adds a whole new layer of complexity.
It's not as simple as just popping into someone's office anymore.
No, it's not.
So how do we make sure communication is effective?
When teams are scattered across continents,
Yeah, that's a tough one.
it takes a lot of awareness and a willingness to adapt.
To those different cultures.
We need to be mindful of time differences,
Yeah.
language barriers, and how different cultures approach communication.
It's like learning a whole new set of communication rules.
It really is.
So how do we navigate those differences?
And make sure everyone feels respected no matter where they are or their background.
Yeah, that's important.
First, be respectful of time zones.
Okay.
Try to schedule meetings at times that work for everyone.
Or at least rotate the meeting times.
So no one team is always stuck with a bad time
It's a small gesture, but it shows you value their time.
and their contributions.
It's about finding that balance
Right.
and making everyone feel included.
Even if they're not physically in the same room.
So important. Okay, what about language barriers?
Be patient
Okay,
and clear in your communication.
right.
Avoid using jargon or slang,
That might not translate well.
and consider using visuals
Okay.
or providing written summaries.
To make sure everyone understands.
It's about going the extra mile,
To ensure clarity.
especially when working with people from different backgrounds.
So important. And what about those cultural differences?
That can impact communication.
Right. Different cultures have different styles,
Different levels of formality.
different ways of expressing disagreement.
Exactly. What might be direct in one culture,
Could be rude in another.
it's something to be really mindful of.
How do we navigate those subtle differences?
It takes a conscious effort to adapt.
Okay.
Do your research, be observant, adjust your style.
It's about showing respect, building trust, bridging those gaps.
Exactly.
It sounds like a challenge,
It is.
but a rewarding one.
Absolutely. The more we embrace those differences,
And learn from each other.
the richer our communication becomes.
And the stronger our relationships will be,
It's about creating a culture of inclusivity
where everyone feels valued.
and empowered to contribute.
This has been an incredible deep dive
It really has.
into the world of cross-team communication.
And we've covered so much ground.
From the basics to some really advanced strategy, I feel like I have a whole new toolkit
Me
to
too.
improving collaboration.
I hope our listeners do too.
Before we wrap up,
Yeah.
any final words of wisdom?
Just never underestimate the power of communication.
Clear, open, respectful communication.
It's the foundation for everything.
It's the key to building strong teams.
And achieving amazing results.
Beautifully said. So to our listeners out there,
Go forth and communicate
share your ideas. Listen to your colleagues work together.
to build something truly amazing.
And remember the journey of improving our communication.
It never ends.
There's always room to grow.
Keep learning. Keep refining your approach.
And keep those communication channels open.
That's the key.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive
It's been a pleasure.
into cross-team communication
We'll see you next time
for another insightful exploration
of a topic that will inspire you
and equip you with the knowledge you need.
to make a positive impact.
Until then, keep diving deep.